My name is Lena Hart. I am 26 years old. The night before my sister's wedding, I was standing in the back hallway of a country club, holding a stack of place cards in one hand and a centerpiece vase in the other, when my body started warning me that something was wrong. At first, it was small. A tremor in my fingers, a cold sweat at the back of my neck, a strange hollow feeling under my ribs like my body had opened a trap door and everything steady inside me had started falling through. I knew that feeling. I had lived with type 1 diabetes since I was 14. I knew what low blood sugar felt like. I knew what could happen if I ignored it. So I set the vase down, pressed one shaking hand against the wall, and said the one sentence I had been trying not to say all night. I need to eat something. My mother did not even look up from the seating chart. After the tables, Lena, my sister, Madison, the bride, turned from the mirror where she had been practicing her smile for photos, and sighed like my pancreas had personally offended her. Can you please not do this tonight? My father was tying ribbons around tiny favor boxes because my mother had decided 30 minutes earlier that the original bows looked cheap. He gave me that flat look he used whenever it became inconvenient. If you can stand there complaining, you can finish the place cards. I tried to explain. My blood sugar is dropping. Madison rolled her eyes. It always is when the attention is not on you. That was when the room shifted. Not emotionally, physically. The carpet seemed to tilt. The lights above the hallway stretched into bright halos. My tongue felt too thick. My hands were no longer shaking a little. They were shaking badly enough that the place cards slipped from my fingers and scattered across the floor. My mother snapped, "Oh, for God's sake." Then someone behind us said very sharply, "Everyone stop talking." The voice belonged to Olivia Mercer, my sister's future sister-in-law, the groom's older sister, an emergency room nurse, a woman I had met exactly twice before that night. She stepped around my mother, looked at my face for half a second, and the warmth drained from hers. "Lena," she said, calm but fast, "when did you last eat?" I tried to answer. The word breakfast came out broken. Olivia's head snapped toward my family. "Breakfast?" Nobody answered. She moved closer, caught my wrist, checked my pulse, then looked at Madison.
"Call 911."
Madison blinked. "What?" Olivia's voice hardened. She is not being dramatic. Her blood sugar is crashing. "Call 911 now." For 1 second, the rehearsal dinner went quiet. The hallway, the bridal room, the dining room beyond the double doors, the entire wedding party froze inside the silence my family had spent years forcing me to swallow. Then my mother said the sentence that ended something in me forever. "Is this really necessary? Tomorrow is Madison's wedding." Before I tell you what Olivia said back and what happened when my family realized a room full of wedding guests had heard everything, tell me where you were listening from, and if you have ever been the person expected to keep helping while your own body was begging you to stop. Stay with me. Because this is the story of the night my family learned that don't make a scene is not medical advice. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 2 weeks before my freshman year of high school. I remember the exact color of the hospital blanket, pale blue, thin, rough at the edges. I remember my mother crying beside the bed, not quietly, not the way people cry when they're scared for you, but the way people cry when something has happened to them. "How are we supposed to manage this?" she asked the doctor. Not "how will Lena manage this?" Not "is she going to be okay?" How are we supposed to manage this? That was my mother, Lena Hart. Everything that happened in our family passed through the question of how it affected her. My father, Mark Hart, handled fear differently. He turned it into impatience. The first time I had to inject insulin at the dinner table, he looked away and said, "Do you have to do that here?" My mother told me not to be sensitive. My sister Madison, who was 10 at the time, asked if diabetes meant I would get more attention now. No one corrected her. I learned very early that my illness had to be managed quietly, efficiently, privately. I was allowed to have diabetes as long as nobody else had to feel uncomfortable around it. Check your blood sugar, but not at the table. Carry snacks, but do not make a big deal. Tell someone if you feel low, but choose a convenient time. Be responsible, but do not be needy. Take care of yourself, but do not interrupt the family. That last one became the rule I lived under. Do not interrupt the family. When my blood sugar dropped at 16 during my father's company picnic, I told my mother I needed juice. She was talking to his boss's wife. She smiled through her teeth and said, "1 minute." By the time she gave me the juice, I was sitting on the grass with my head between my knees while two strangers asked if I was okay. On the drive home, my father said, "You have to plan better." When I had a low during Madison's high school graduation party, my mother whispered, "Please do not pull focus today." When I nearly fainted in the grocery store at 22, Madison told her friends later that I had done the Victorian woman collapse thing. Everyone laughed. That was how my family survived anything uncomfortable. They turned it into a joke before anyone had to feel responsible. Madison was always the easy daughter, not because she was kinder, because she fit. She was pretty in the way my mother understood, polished, social, good at making rooms rearrange themselves around her. Madison did not ask questions that made people pause. She did not correct family stories. She did not refuse hugs from relatives who insulted her. She did not say, "I need help," unless the help came with attention and a camera. My mother called her sunshine. She called me intense. Madison got dance lessons. I got lectures about self-management. Madison got surprise birthday brunches. I got a glucose monitor paid for with a reminder that medical expenses were not cheap. Madison got to cry. I got told stress affects blood sugar, so maybe I should try being less emotional. By the time Madison got engaged to Caleb Mercer, my role in the family had been settled for years. I was the useful daughter, the one with the clipboard, the one who drove elderly relatives to appointments, the one who cleaned after parties because Madison had social exhaustion, the one who remembered medication schedules, hotel bookings, dietary restrictions, receipts, passwords, and who could not sit next to whom without causing drama. And because I was useful, my needs were treated like interruptions. The wedding planning made everything worse. Madison wanted a soft garden wedding with gold accents, handwritten details, and effortless elegance, which turned out to require 47 spreadsheets and no effort from her. My mother appointed herself commander of the whole operation. My father paid for what he wanted to brag about and complained about everything else. I became unpaid staff. I addressed invitations. I built a wedding website. I tracked RSVPs. I assembled welcome bags. I organized transportation. I made the seating chart 3 times because Madison kept changing which friend was dead to her this week. I reminded the caterer about my own dietary needs, then watched my mother delete that note from the email thread. Because the wedding menu is not about you. That should have been the moment I stepped back. It was not. I told myself families are complicated. I told myself Madison was stressed. I told myself my mother showed love through control, and my father showed care through paying bills he later used as weapons. I told myself a lot of things because the truth was harder. The truth was that my family liked me best when I was useful and quiet. The week of the wedding, I took 3 days off work. I am an occupational therapy assistant at a rehabilitation clinic. My job is literally helping people learn how to function safely inside their own bodies and environments. I spend my days reminding stroke patients to rest before exhaustion becomes dangerous, teaching people how to ask for assistance without shame, and telling families that care is not the same thing as control. Then I went home and forgot how to apply any of that to myself. The rehearsal dinner was held at Briar Glen Country Club, a place my mother had chosen because she said it had old-world charm, which meant dark wood, high ceilings, and staff members trained to pretend wealthy people were interesting. The wedding itself would be the next afternoon. That Friday was supposed to be simple. Rehearsal at 5, dinner at 7, a toast, a slideshow. Home by 10, that was the plan. But nothing involving my mother stayed simple. At 8 that morning, she called me and said the welcome bags needed to be redone because the ribbon shade was too yellow. At 10, Madison decided the bridesmaid emergency kits needed cuter packaging. At noon, my father said the hotel had lost track of 3 out-of-town relatives, and I should call the front desk because you are better with people. At 1:30, Madison texted that she needed me at the country club early because the florist had delivered centerpieces that looked funeral adjacent. I had eaten breakfast at 7. Greek yogurt, toast, half a banana. I had packed a lunch. I never got to eat it. Every time I reached for the container in my bag, someone needed me. Lena, can you run these to the bridal suites? Lena, can you fix the seating cards? Lena, can you ask the kitchen about gluten-free rolls? Lena, can you steam Madison's rehearsal dress? Lena, can you find your father? Lena, can you stop looking so stressed? By 6:30, my glucose monitor had buzzed twice. I silenced it both times, not because I did not know better, because old training is powerful, because my mother was already tense, because Madison was already snapping, because my father had already muttered that I always made health stuff bigger than it needed to be, because I had spent 12 years learning that the safest thing to do was last a little longer. Just last a little longer. That is how people like me get hurt. Not because we do not know what we need, because we have been taught that needing it at the wrong time makes us selfish. Caleb's family arrived around 6:45. The Mercars were different from mine in a way that made me uncomfortable at first. They asked direct questions. They listened to the answers. Caleb's father, Tom, carried 2 boxes without being asked. His mother, Joanna, thanked the servers by name. His older sister, Olivia, arrived in navy scrubs under a wool coat. Because she had come straight from a hospital shift, she apologized for being late, kissed Caleb on the cheek, and immediately asked Madison if she had eaten. Laughed. No, since breakfast. Wedding diet. Olivia frowned. That is not a diet. That is a bad idea. Madison waved her off. I remember thinking, must be nice to have someone here I have not eaten, and respond with concern instead of irritation. Olivia had met me twice before, once at the engagement brunch, once during a bridal shower. Both times she had noticed things my family ignored. At the brunch, she saw me checking my glucose under the table and quietly moved a basket of bread closer without making a production of it. At the bridal shower, she caught me standing too long in the heat and said, "You look a little pale. Do you need shade or sugar?" I almost cried then. Not because it was dramatic, because it was simple. Care should be simple. By 7:10, guests were being seated. By 7:20, Madison noticed that 3 of the place cards had smudged. By 7:30, my mother discovered the favor boxes had been placed on the wrong side of the plates. By 7:40, I was in the back hallway with my hand shaking. That was where the story began. I told my mother I needed to eat. She said after the tables. I told Madison my blood sugar was dropping. She said, "Can you please not do this tonight?" I told my father I felt wrong. He said, "If you can stand there complaining, you can finish the place cards." Then my body stopped negotiating. The first thing to go was my focus. The place cards on the floor blurred. The gold letters looked like they were floating. Then my hearing changed. The laughter from the dining room sounded far away, underwater. My fingers went numb. My heart raced. I tried to reach into my bag for glucose tablets, but my hand would not obey properly. That was when I dropped the vase. It did not shatter. It rolled. Water spread across the floor. White roses slid out like something from a funeral. My mother gasped, "Lena, look what you did." I remember thinking, even now, the flowers were the emergency? Then Olivia was there. She moved with the speed of someone whose body understood crisis before anyone else had finished denying it. "Lena," she said. "Look at me." I tried. My eyes would not settle. She took my wrist. Her fingers were cool, firm. When did you last eat? I said breakfast. Or I tried to. It came out more like breath than word. Olivia turned to Madison. Get juice. Now. Madison did not move. Olivia's voice sharpened. Madison, juice. Now? My sister looked offended. I do not know where. Olivia looked at my father.
Call 911.
My father stiffened. Let's not overreact. Olivia stared at him. She is confused, sweating, shaking, and barely answering me. She is diabetic and has not eaten since breakfast. This is a medical emergency. My mother stepped in. She gets like this when she is anxious. Olivia's face changed. Not louder, colder. Low blood sugar can cause seizures, unconsciousness, and death. Stop explaining and start helping. That was when people in the dining room began to notice. Conversations stopped. Chairs shifted. Someone asked what was happening. Madison whispered, "Oh my God, everyone is looking." Olivia heard her. I wish she had not. Actually, no. I am glad she did. Because she turned toward my sister and said, clear enough for half the room to hear, "Your sister is not ruining your wedding. She is trying not to go into shock." Those words landed harder than the vase. Madison's face drained. My mother grabbed a napkin like she needed something to do with her hands. My father finally took out his phone, but he looked furious. As if dialing 911 was a personal defeat. A server appeared with orange juice. Olivia helped me drink small sips, one hand steady behind my shoulder. Slowly, she said, "Stay with me." I wanted to apologize. That was the sickest part. I wanted to say sorry for the water, sorry for the flowers, sorry for the scene. Sorry for needing emergency care at a dinner where I had been working for 12 hours without food. The words formed automatically. I'm sorry. Olivia leaned close. You are not apologizing for a medical crisis. I looked past her and saw my family. My mother was crying now, but not because she was scared for me. She was looking at the guests, at the Mercers, at Madison's future in-laws, at the wedding party. Her face said, "How do I fix how this looks?" My father stood stiff with the phone to his ear. Madison hovered near the doorway, one hand over her mouth, eyes darting between me and the audience. They were not afraid of losing me. They were afraid of being seen. The paramedics arrived through the side entrance. The country club manager led them in with a pale face and a headset clipped to his jacket. One paramedic knelt beside me. The other asked who was with her when this started. My mother opened her mouth. Olivia answered first. I was. She said she needed food. Her family told her to keep working. She is type 1 diabetic and reports last eating at breakfast. The word report sounded professional, clean, damning. My mother gasped. That is not fair. Olivia looked at her. No, it was not. The dining room went silent again. But this silence had witnesses inside it. The paramedic checked my glucose. His expression tightened. He looked at his partner, then at Olivia. Good call. 2 words, good call. Not to my parents, not to my sister, to the near stranger who had believed me faster than my own family had. As they moved me onto a stretcher, Madison started crying. Lena, I did not know it was that serious. I wanted to ask how serious it had to be before kindness became available, but my mouth was too dry. My mother touched my ankle as they wheeled me past. Not my hand, not my face. My ankle, like she was touching the edge of a problem she did not want to hold. We will come to the hospital after dinner, she said. After dinner. I turned my face toward Olivia. She was walking beside the stretcher, her jaw clenched. I heard her say to Caleb, I am going with her. Caleb said, of course. Madison said, but the toast. Nobody answered her. In the ambulance, the world narrowed to lights, straps, and the paramedic's voice. He asked me questions. Name, age, diagnosis, insulin, last meal, symptoms. I answered what I could. My tongue felt heavy. My thoughts came in pieces. At one point he asked, "Do you have an emergency contact?" I almost said my mother. The answer sat there, waiting from habit. Then I remembered her voice. "After the tables, Lena. Not tonight, Lena. Do not make this about you." I turned my head slightly. "Olivia Mercer," I whispered. The paramedic looked at me. "Relationship?" I closed my eyes.
Witness.
At the hospital, they gave me glucose, monitored me, ran labs, and asked questions my family never asked without resentment. "How do you feel? Are you dizzy? Do you feel safe going home? Do you have food at home? Do you have someone who can stay with you?" Olivia stayed in the corner of the room, quiet and steady. She texted Caleb updates. She did not crowd me. She did not make my crisis about her. At some point, a nurse named Tasha came in and asked if I wanted my family brought back. When they arrived, I looked at Olivia. She did not answer for me. That mattered. I asked, "Are they here?" Tasha checked the hallway. Not yet. I looked at the clock. 2 hours had passed. The rehearsal dinner was probably ending. Maybe dessert had been served. Maybe the toast had happened. Maybe Madison had cried into Caleb's shoulder about how stressful this was for her. My phone buzzed on the tray beside me. A message from my mother. "We are leaving soon. Please do not tell the doctors we ignored you. Everyone is already upset." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I am sorry." Not, "I should have fed you. Please do not tell the doctors." I stared at the message until the letters blurred. Olivia saw my face. She did not ask to read it. I handed her the phone. Her expression went still. Then she looked at me and said, "Lena, you do not have to protect people who would not protect you." I started crying then, not loudly, not dramatically, just tears slipping sideways into my hair while a hospital blanket scratched my arms. And a nurse adjusted my fore. I had spent 12 years managing my diabetes around my family's comfort. 12 years carrying snacks, checking numbers in bathrooms, apologizing for alarms, laughing at jokes, and pretending their annoyance was normal. But lying in that hospital bed, with my mother more worried about what I might tell doctors than whether I had nearly lost consciousness because of their neglect, something became brutally clear. They did not misunderstand my needs. They resented having to acknowledge them. When the doctor came in, he explained what had happened in careful, serious words. Severe hypoglycemic episode. Delayed response. High risk if untreated. Potential seizure. Potential loss of consciousness. He said I was lucky someone recognized the signs. I looked at Olivia. She looked away like praise made her uncomfortable. Then the doctor asked, "Is there anyone at home who helps you manage episodes or knows what to do in an emergency?" I laughed once. It came out wrong. No. He did not laugh with me. He just nodded and said, "Then we need to talk about a safer plan." A safer plan. Those words sat in my chest like a key. My family arrived 20 minutes later. My mother came in first, still wearing the pearl earrings she had chosen for the rehearsal dinner. Her lipstick touched up, her face arranged into concern. My father followed. Madison came last, wrapped in Caleb's suit jacket, eyes red and swollen. Caleb stood behind her, looking like a man who was beginning to understand what kind of family he was marrying into. My mother rushed toward the bed. "My baby," she said. "Baby?" The word sounded strange from her mouth. She had not called me that since I was little enough to be useful. As a reflection of her, I did not move. She stopped short when she saw Olivia beside the bed. "Oh," my mother said. "You're still here." Olivia's face stayed neutral.
Yes.
My father cleared his throat. "How are you feeling?" It should have been enough. A father asking a simple question. But I heard the performance in it. The nurses were nearby. Olivia was listening. Caleb was watching. My father was not asking because he had suddenly become gentle. He was asking because the room had witnesses. "I'm tired," I said. Madison burst into tears. I did not know it was that bad. I looked at her. "I told you my blood sugar was dropping. You always say stuff like that. What does that mean?" She wiped her face. "You always have something. A number, a warning, a snack, a schedule." It is always this thing we have to work around. There it was. The truth. Not cruelty exactly. Entitlement. My illness had never been real to her. It had been an inconvenience in the shape of a sister. My mother stepped in. Madison is under a lot of stress. The wedding is tomorrow. I looked at her. I was the one on the stretcher. Her mouth tightened, and we were all terrified. No, Olivia said quietly. Everyone turned. Olivia stood from her chair. You were embarrassed. My father's face darkened. Excuse me. Olivia looked at him. At the country club, you argued about calling 911. Your wife asked if it was necessary because the wedding is tomorrow. Madison said everyone was looking. Nobody asked Lena when she last ate until I did. My mother's eyes filled. You do not know our family. No, Olivia said. But I know what neglect looks like when it arrives in formal clothes. The room went silent. A nurse appeared at the doorway. Tasha. She looked at me, not my family. Lena, do you want this visit to continue? My mother inhaled sharply. Are you serious? Tasha did not look at her. She looked at me. Nobody in my family had ever asked that question, like my answer carried authority. Do you want this visit to continue? Every instinct in me screamed to smooth it over.
Say yes.
Let them stay. Do not embarrass Mom. Do not upset Dad. Do not ruin Madison's wedding more than you already have. Then I saw the text on my phone again. Please do not tell the doctors we ignored you. I looked at Tasha. No. One word. My mother's face collapsed. Lena. I do not want them here. Tasha stepped into the room. Then this visit is over. Patient needs rest in a low-stress environment. My father stiffened. This is ridiculous. Olivia said no. This is the first medically sound decision this family has made all night. Madison sobbed harder. Lena, please. Tomorrow is my wedding. I looked at her. Then go sleep. She stared at me like she had never met me. Maybe she had not. Maybe the version of me who could say that had never existed in front of her before. Security did not have to drag them out. That would have been easier for them, I think. Instead, they had to walk out under their own power while a nurse held the door open. And Olivia watched. My mother looked betrayed. My father looked humiliated. Madison looked angry beneath her tears. Caleb lingered at the doorway. He looked at me and said softly, I am sorry. Then he followed them out. When the door closed, my whole body shook. The monitor picked it up. Tasha adjusted my blanket. Olivia stepped closer.
You okay?
No, I said. It was the first honest answer I had given all day. But I think I just chose myself. The next morning, the hospital social worker came in with a clipboard and silver glasses. Her name was Renee. She asked about home safety, emergency contacts, stress triggers, and whether anyone had ever discouraged me from seeking medical care. I almost gave the family-approved answer. They mean well. It was stressful. Nobody understood. But I was tired of translating harm into misunderstanding. So I told her. I told her about the rehearsal dinner, about the years of jokes, about my mother deleting my dietary note from the catering email, about my father calling me dramatic when medical alarms went off, about Madison treating my diabetes like a rival for attention. Renee listened. She did not widen her eyes. She did not interrupt. When I finished, she asked, Do you want your parents listed as emergency contacts? The old answer rose again. Yes, because they are my parents. Yes, because that is what a good daughter does. Yes, because not listing them would hurt them. Then I remembered lying in the hospital bed, while my mother asked me not to tell doctors the truth. No, I said. Renee nodded. Who would you like instead? I thought of Olivia sitting in a chair for hours after a hospital shift. I thought of my best friend Claire, who had once driven across town at midnight, because my glucose monitor kept alarming and I was scared to sleep. Claire Dawson, I said. My best friend. Renee wrote it down. And Olivia Mercer, if she agrees. From the doorway, Olivia said, I agree.
I turned.
She was holding 2 coffees and a granola bar. I thought you might need breakfast that did not come in a plastic cup. I laughed, then cried, then laughed again. By noon, my phone had become a war zone. 46 missed calls, more than 100 messages. My mother, my father, Madison, aunts, cousins, people who had not checked on me in years, but apparently had strong opinions about wedding etiquette during medical emergencies. The family group chat was the worst. Your sister is devastated. You could have waited until after the wedding. Your mother is beside herself. Everyone was scared. Why are you punishing Madison? You owe the family a calm conversation. I stared at the screen and felt the old guilt trying to hook into me. Then I saw one message from my father. You embarrassed your mother in front of Caleb's family. Fix this before the ceremony. Fix this. Not heal, not rest, not recover. Fix this. I handed the phone to Olivia. Can you help me screenshot everything? For what? For the next time they tell me I imagined it. She nodded once. Good. That afternoon, my doctor came back with discharge instructions. He told me the episode had been serious. He said I needed rest, proper meals, monitoring, and reduced exposure to high-stress environments for the next few days. Reduced exposure to high-stress environments. I almost smiled. There it was. A doctor had given me a medical phrase for not going to my sister's wedding. When he left, I sat up slowly. Olivia helped adjust the bed. You know they're expecting you tomorrow, she said. I know. What do you want? No one had asked me that in so long, it took me a moment to understand the question. What did I want? Not what would keep Mom calm. Not what would protect Madison's photos. Not what would make Dad stop texting. Not what would keep relatives from talking. What did I want? I do not want to go, I said. The words sounded terrifying, then peaceful. I do not want to sit in a dress. And smiled for photos with people who told me to finish place cards while my blood sugar crashed. Olivia nodded. Then do not go. It sounded impossible when she said it. Then, slowly, it sounded like a door opening. I texted Madison first. I will not be attending the wedding tomorrow. I hope the day is beautiful. I also hope one day you understand that I was not trying to take attention from you. I was trying not to slip into a medical crisis while working for your wedding. I need distance now. She responded within 30 seconds. Are you serious? Then, you're really going to do this to me? Then, everyone is going to ask where you are. I typed back, tell them the truth. I was not trying to steal your spotlight. I was trying to stay conscious. Then I muted her. My mother called immediately. I did not answer. She texted, Lena, do not you dare humiliate this family tomorrow. For the first time in my life, I did not feel afraid of that sentence. I felt tired of it. I replied once, I am following medical advice. Reduced exposure to high-stress environments. Then I muted her too. My father texted, you are taking this too far. I sent him a screenshot of his own message. You embarrassed your mother. Fix this before the ceremony. Then I wrote, this is why I'm not coming. I muted him. That night, I slept better than I expected. Not perfectly, not peacefully all the way through, but without the dread of waking up and putting on a bridesmaid dress to stand beside people who had shown me exactly how little my safety mattered. The wedding happened without me. At 2 in the afternoon, while Madison was walking down the aisle, I was on my couch in sweatpants eating soup Claire had brought over. At 3, my glucose monitor beeped. Not dangerously, just a routine alert. Claire looked at me. Do you need anything? I almost said no automatically. Then I stopped. Juice, please. She got it without sighing, without rolling her eyes, without making me explain why. That small moment felt more like family than half my childhood. By evening, the messages started. Not from my parents, from guests. One bridesmaid wrote, I did not know they made you work all day without eating. I am sorry I did not help. Caleb texted. Olivia told me everything. I am sorry for what happened. I should have noticed more. I hope you are safe. An aunt sent. Your mother says you abandoned the wedding, is that true? I replied. I was hospitalized after a diabetic emergency during the rehearsal dinner. I followed medical advice and stayed home. She did not respond. By Monday, the story had changed shape. That is what stories do when they leave the house where they were controlled. At first, my mother told everyone I had worked myself up. Then people learned Olivia was an ER nurse. Then someone mentioned the paramedics. Then someone else remembered hearing my mother say, "Tomorrow is Madison's wedding," while I was sitting on the floor. Then the country club staff told someone's cousin that I had been working since early afternoon. By the time the truth circled back to my family, it had witnesses attached to it. That was new. My family had always relied on privacy. Inside our house, they could make me the dramatic one, the sensitive one, the difficult one, the one who needed too much. But at Briar Glen, other people had heard them. At the hospital, nurses had seen them. On my phone, their messages had documented them. Their power had depended on me absorbing the truth alone. I was not alone anymore. 3 days after the wedding, Madison showed up at my apartment. I did not buzz her in. She called from the lobby. "Lena, please. Just let me explain." I stood by the window and looked down. She was still wearing her honeymoon manicure. Perfect pale pink. "I am not ready to see you. You missed my wedding. I was in the hospital the night before your wedding. You could have come for the ceremony. I could have had another episode from stress and exhaustion." She was quiet. Then she said, "Everyone kept asking where you were." There it was still, the embarrassment, the optics, the way my absence had disrupted the picture. I closed my eyes. "Madison, did you come because you were worried about me or because people asked questions?" Silence. That answer was enough. "I love you," I said, "but I am not opening the door today." She cried then, maybe real tears, maybe angry ones. I could not tell from 5 floors up. I stepped away from the window before guilt could turn into obedience. My mother came 2 days later with my father. I did not let them in either. She left a voicemail from the sidewalk. "You are breaking this family apart." I saved it in the folder Olivia helped me create. Proof. Then I went to therapy. My therapist, Dr. Harlan, asked me what I wanted my life to look like. If it was no longer organized around preventing my mother's disappointment, I had no answer at first. That scared me. I knew how to manage insulin, schedules, meals, appointments, work, family crises, wedding logistics, but I did not know how to imagine a life where my body was allowed to come first. So we started small. I made a list. I will eat when I need to eat. I will not silence medical alarms to protect someone else's mood. I will not attend events where my health is treated as sabotage. I will not argue with people who need me sick and quiet to feel innocent. I will not confuse being useful with being loved. The list lived in my refrigerator, then on my phone, then slowly in my body. For the first time in years, I stopped going to Sunday dinners. The first Sunday, my mother texted 14 times. The second Sunday, 6. The third one. By the fourth, nothing. That silence hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted the texts, because some childish part of me had believed that if I stopped showing up, they would come looking with love instead of accusation. They did not. They were angry about losing access. That is not the same as missing someone. Olivia and Caleb invited me to dinner a month later. I almost said no because it felt strange. Caleb was now my brother-in-law, Madison's husband. A bridge I was not sure I wanted. But Olivia texted, "No wedding talk unless you bring it up." Also, I made pasta and there will be juice in the fridge. So I went. It was the first family-adjacent dinner I had attended where nobody commented when I checked my glucose. Nobody sighed when I ate before everyone else. Nobody said, "Must be nice to have special rules." Olivia noticed me looking at the orange juice in the fridge and said, "I like people alive in my house." I laughed so hard I had to sit down. Caleb apologized that night. Not vaguely. Not for how things went. For specifics. "I should have noticed you were working all day. I should have asked if you had eaten. I should have told Madison to stop before Olivia had to. I'm sorry." I believed him, not because it fixed everything, because he did not ask me to comfort him after saying it. That is how real apologies feel. They do not hand you a mop. They do not ask you to clean up the guilt. Madison did not apologize for a long time. When she finally did, it came in a letter. I know I treated your diabetes like a personal inconvenience. I know I cared more about how the wedding looked than whether you were safe. I do not know how to become the sister you needed. But I am starting therapy because I do not want to become mom. I read it twice, then folded it. I have not answered yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I will not. Forgiveness is not a wedding favor. You do not hand it out because someone showed up late and dressed nicely. My parents have not changed. Not really. My father sent one message after 6 weeks. Your mother is taking this very hard, I replied. I took the stretcher ride hard. He did not answer. My mother sent one long email about how motherhood is complicated and how I would understand one day. When I had children, I replied with one sentence. I understand enough to know I would feed my child before asking her to finish place cards. She did not write again. I am low contact now. Maybe one day that will become no contact. Maybe one day they will do the work. But I no longer build my health around the possibility of their growth. My emergency contacts are Claire and Olivia. My medical notes are shared with people who believe them. My glucose alarms are loud. I do not silence them for dinner, weddings, birthdays, or anyone's comfort. Sometimes I still hear my mother's voice in my head. Do not make a scene. I answer it now. Living is not a scene. Needing food is not a scene. Asking for help is not a scene. Collapsing quietly would have been the tragedy. Being seen was the rescue. People ask if missing the wedding was revenge. It was not. Revenge would have been making a speech during the ceremony. Revenge would have been posting screenshots. Revenge would have been telling every guest exactly what happened before Madison walked down the aisle. I did not do that. I stayed home. I ate soup. I drank juice when my body needed it. I rested. For my family, that was worse. Because my role had always been to return. Return after insults. Return after jokes. Return after neglect. Return after being told my needs were inconvenient. Return smiling, useful, and quiet. The punishment was not that I yelled. The punishment was that I stopped coming back. That is my story. A rehearsal dinner. A dropped vase. A nurse who believed me. A hospital note that said reduced exposure to conflict. And a wedding I survived by missing. If someone in your life only loves you when your needs are invisible, hear me. You are not dramatic for having a body. You are not selfish for eating when you need to eat. You are not cruel for leaving rooms where your pain becomes entertainment. Families should not have to be convinced that you deserve air, food, safety, or care. And if strangers can protect you faster than your relatives can, maybe the question is not why you are pulling away. Maybe the question is why they made distance the safest place to breathe. Tell me in the comments what you would have done. Would you have gone to the wedding the next day? Would you have opened the door when they came to your apartment? Would you have forgiven Madison after the letter? And if you know someone who keeps being called dramatic for having real needs, send them this story. Maybe they need to hear that the scene is not asking for help. The scene is everyone who taught them not to. I will see you in the next one.